Appreciate everybody being on again today. Good to see everybody. First of all, I just want to send my condolences to the family of Willie Scott, Carolina Hall of Famer, on his passing today. Thoughts and prayers go out to him and or go out to his family. I'm so sorry to hear of that news as well. Somebody I think a lot of and will continue to. Congratulations to Ryan Succop and Kobe Smith on their Super Bowl victory the other night. That was awesome to see. And congratulations as well to Rashad Fenton and Chris Lamons on a great season with the Chiefs and making that game as well, which is a great accomplishment. I'm sure we'll be seeing those guys back in it many more times, I'm sure, and extra respect for Ryan Succop, obviously a guy that was here when I was here as a coach, and to see him still performing at a high level after all these years is pretty remarkable, and couldn't be happier for him and his success. Couldn't happen to a better guy as well. Excited about our 5 new analysts. I know that was announced yesterday. Really pleased with the group we were able to put together there of people and coaches with recruiting ties in different areas that will really be assets for us here at Carolina going forward, and very thankful to Coach Tanner and our administration and board for allowing us to create a few more analyst positions to get some more support staff people in the building. Those guys will be fantastic for us, and really pleased about those guys being here. And then obviously we're here today to talk about Montario Hardesty. Super pumped to make that hire. Somebody that I've known of and followed his career since he got into coaching. Great player in college. Obviously that speaks for itself. Was a player in college when I was here before, and remember him through the recruiting process and then being a player in college. But what really attracted us to him was just the kind of person he is, and then his story. So many coaches that I talked to when we were doing our research on Montario, more than one coach or administrator used the word star to describe him. That they said, Shane, this guy's a future star. Another guy, Shane, he's a future star. You may not hire him this time, but you're going to be competing against him in the SEC very, very soon. People that I have a lot of respect for speak very, very highly of him, and that resonated with me. And I think his story is fantastic as well, certainly in relation to the running backs that we have on our team. Again, I said it before, I feel for them. They with Montario, they now have their 3rd running backs coach in less than a year. Now, again, the 2 guys that were here before obviously left here to go to the NFL, so you can't fault them from that standpoint. But it's tough on a running back or any position player when you have multiple position coaches in that short a period of time. And Montario and I were talking during the interview, and he had that happen to him in college. He had multiple position coaches in college, which I think will help a lot when it comes to getting in there with our guys. The fact that he has played the position at a high level, at the college level and the NFL level, is impressive to me, and will help us in a lot of ways. Anytime you can have a coach on your staff that has played the game in the NFL, which is where all of our guys want to get, I think that's a fantastic resource for our guys to have. And he's one of many that we now have on this coaching staff and in this building that have experience as NFL players. His career in the NFL wasn't quite what he wanted it to be, frankly, and that's a great story for everybody on our team, not just the running backs that they all think that we're going to go have 10-year careers in the NFL, and that's not realistic. He's a guy that had high hopes and had an unfortunate injury in a preseason game, and just like that, his career, was basically over. And then at that point, he didn't say, all right, I've played in the NFL and I expect to go get hired as a big-time football coach right now. He knew he wanted to get into coaching and chase that passion, chase that dream. Started out as a coach at Chowan small college. Then from there, he went to Norfolk State and worked. And then, the other roles and places that he's been, and then most recently at Charlotte. I have a lot of respect for his career path and knowing what he wanted to do and doing everything in his power to chase a dream, to be a college football coach, and trying to continually better himself each and every year. North Carolina native. That will certainly help in recruiting. We know how important that state is to us in recruiting, and he has fantastic ties up there. And then the roles that he's had, not just the place that he's been, but I think the fact that he's coached receivers helps. He obviously knows the running back position. He played it at a high level like I talked about, but then also being able to get out of that comfort zone from coaching running backs and be able to learn another position and coach receivers. I think will do nothing but help him going forward and help us as he jumps in that offensive staff room with Coach Satterfield and the rest of the offensive staff. So he got in here today. Today was his first day. Kevin Harris and Marshawn and all of our running backs were up here. Zaquandre Rashad, all those guys were up here this morning visiting with him, and I know they're excited that he's here from talking to those guys, and we are too. So fortunate we were able to hire him. Had a lot of people that were interested in him, and thankful that he decided to become a Gamecock. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys have.
Use the raise hand function, and we'll get to you as quickly as we can. David Kleininger with the first one.
Hey, Shane, thanks for doing this. With the analysts now hired and obviously Montario filling that vacant spot, are you done now with filling out your staff? Could there maybe be a few more support staff guys added over the coming weeks?
There could be. There's a couple things that Coach Tanner and I have discussed that are possibilities. It would have to be the right person, right time, but there's a couple specific guys that we've talked about for a specific role if it worked out on our end and their end. So we're probably done here for the short term, but again, we'll see what happens here as we go forward also. But very content and very happy with where we are right now with the people in this building and the connectedness that we have right now in this building. I really like.
Mike Yuba.
Hey, Shane, I'm sure you would agree that, with having a spring football practice starting, spring football in general is just starting a little bit later. There's some pros and cons with that. But as a new coach, teams trying to get acclimated to you guys. And then on top of that, you've had so much turnover with coaches. How much can that benefit you in this situation with having it as late as it is?
It's huge. I'm so thankful that we decided to do that. And there's positives to us going earlier and there's positives to going later, but the fact that we went later is perfect for us this year, just for those reasons that you said, Mike. I mean, new staff, we're trying to get systems implemented. Coach Satterfield and the offensive staff, they've been working since they got in here at the beginning of the month or the beginning of January. But then now today was Montario's first day, so they got to get him caught up and make sure they marry everything so that they're a fit from how we're calling things, and he's got to learn it. I'm doing so many things right now outside of like X's and O's that I need to get in there and dive into the schematic stuff with them more and more in depth, and I'll have time to do that as we go forward. And then just the fact that, 2020 was so unique for all programs, but particularly ours with Coach Muschamp making a change in strength coach after the season in 2019, having a new strength coach in 2020, COVID, everything that happened was certainly unique, and more importantly than anything, we got to get in that weight room and get stronger. And so the more time that those guys can have in there with Luke before we start spring practice, the better.
Eric Boynton.
Hi, Shane. I'm sure the hiring process is always kind of a little bit crazy for any coach in any situation, but how would you kind of describe your recent hiring process? Would you retain guys, they leave a few days later, then all of a sudden you think you might be set in other regards, then more guys kind of leave and you have spots open again? How would you kind of describe this roller coaster hiring process you've been on?
It's been a whirlwind, but, it's been enlightening. I was talking with somebody this morning. I mean, I think in the end, everything has happened exactly the way it should have happened and needed to happen. And nothing against anybody that's not here anymore, but I just think the vibe in this building right now is fantastic. And we replaced good coaches with some really good coaches, in my opinion, and really excited about the group of guys that we have in here, the way that they're working together. Things happen when you have good coaches. People are going to try and hire them. And like I've mentioned before in here, I mean, there's guys that are in this building that had opportunities to go places, and they chose to stay at South Carolina. Some of the on-the-field coaches and some of the support staff people in this building as well. So it's not just the guys that left. I'm really pumped about the guys that stayed and are here and want to be here. And it's always going to be an issue. I feel like we got an amazing building of personnel and people in here, and other programs know that. So there's going to be other guys that have opportunities to leave, men and women going forward, and you hope you make this just a fantastic environment that people don't want to leave. That's my goal each and every day, and confident that we're creating that. George Stoya, if you're going to get on this call, you better get your hand up and ask a question if you're going to jump on this thing.
Hill McGranahan.
Shane, how's Marshawn Lloyd doing with his rehab, and how much do you guys expect for him to be able to do once practice gets going next month?
He's doing well. Was in my office this morning, like I talked about with Kevin, and looks great. You can tell he's a guy that, during his rehab, he didn't take that time off. I mean, he got bigger and stronger. That was obvious to see. And when you hurt a knee, you're not able to do maybe as much cardio, obviously, because you're not really able to run and do some of that stuff. So it's been important for him to get back in shape. But really like his mentality, demeanor right now, and the way that he's working. And we're still, a month and a half, I guess, or a little over a month away from starting spring practice. So he's got quite a bit of time until we get into it. But we're certainly excited to, see what he looks like when we get cranked up next month.
John Del Bianco.
Shane, sticking on running backs, since this is the theme of this press conference, just how much of a comfort is it to know, the talent that you have in that room returning, leading with Kevin Harris, and with Kevin specifically, how much have you gotten to know him over the last couple of months, and what do you think of him as a person and as a player watching his film?
Yeah, really like him early on. Before I got hired, we were off when South Carolina played Ole Miss, and I was able to watch that game that night, or maybe we had a game that day. I can't remember. But anyway, I was able to watch the entire South Carolina Ole Miss game and remember thinking, man, at the time, got a great guy, a great running back right there. And then there's no doubt, what he did last year on a team that didn't have the success on the field that they wanted and weren't able to throw the ball as well as you need to in this league to win, for him and our offensive line and our entire offense to be able to, have such a productive year running the football stood out to me and is exciting going forward as we're able to put pieces around it. But been able to spend, quite a bit of time with him. I'm trying to get around our guys as much as we can, popping in the weight room and popping in downstairs when they're eating and bouncing around the locker room and the training room and just getting around our guys and doing as many activities as we can just in a relaxed setting. And he's certainly one of those guys. We had some phone conversations back in December and over Christmas break and then since then as well. So really impressed with him and that entire running back group.
Matt Connolly.
Shane, the people you talked to about Monterio, why are they so confident that he's going to be a star as a coach? And what was it about him that made him such a great hire for you guys, you feel like?
He's just a great guy. Obviously I spent 3 years at Tennessee early in my career as a graduate assistant and have a lot of friends still up there, whether it be in the administration or in the equipment room. And you talk to anybody up there, just the way they speak of him is what kind of person he was. And they were able to see him as a player. And then when he came back to Tennessee as an analyst as well, they got to see him in both those worlds or in both those roles. And I think it's just the way that he treats people. The one thing that kept coming up in all my conversations is just what a fantastic personality he is. Just an electric, dynamic personality, always a smile on his face, always high energy, positive. That's what I want in this building. That's what I want this program to be about, positive, high energy guys. And he's that way. He's always got a little pep in his step and always got a smile on his face. And then having a chance to, when we met with him before, or when we met with him over Zoom for the interview, it was one of those things. He just stood out. Just kind of a personality that people gravitate to. I was really impressed with just his knowledge and his intelligence of just football in general. Not that I didn't think that, don't take this the wrong way, but just of people and of schemes and the different systems he was in when he was with the Cleveland Browns. I think they had maybe like 3 different coordinators in 3 years or 2 coordinators in 2 years, whatever it was. So he had to learn a lot of different systems, and that stood out to me as well. He's been exposed. He's not young, but in a young coaching career, he's been exposed to a lot of just different styles, systems, situations, roles, and was just a guy that had great experience from that standpoint. It was one of those, I was in my office talking to him on Zoom, and Sat was in his office on Zoom, and we were up here late one night last week, and as soon as it was over, he walked in my office and was like, what are we waiting for? Like, who else do we need to talk to? He was that impressive and got it done shortly thereafter.
George Stoyo.
Hey, Shane. Hope you're doing well.
How's things in Denver?
They're great. That's actually why I'm on here. I don't really have necessarily a question for you, but for a very specific question for Monterio. But while I do have you on here, I will, I guess, just ask you, when you're going through these coaching hires, do you lean on people that come from your past? I know, obviously, your dad, but guys like Lincoln, do you look at how they handled those situations and and kind of take advice from them as you go through these hirings?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to reach out to a lot of people and try and be as very thorough as I can, and talk to as many different people, head coaches they've worked for, people they've been around, teammates. I mean, anybody that's been around these guys in different roles. And I think in any job, anybody, if, not that Monterio sent a resume to me directly, but you're not always going to call references on a resume. You're going to call, people they've been around and people you know and trust. And you certainly, each guy's different. I mean, I've been some places where if there was an opening, we sat down in the staff room and every single coach on that staff, spoke up and threw out potential names. I've been on some staffs where if there was an opening, you knew nothing about it unless the head coach asked you, and you didn't find out until you guys did who we hired. So I've been a part of different systems or different philosophies when it comes to that. But I'm certainly going to rely on people I trust and go back to people I know. I mean, Monterio is a guy that coming out of, we talked about it during the interview. I mean, coming out of high school in North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and playing for my dad was one of the schools he considered, so knew his name going way back, and then obviously competed against him when I was a coach here before and he was a player. So I think you look at every single resource. And I think too that one thing that's been beneficial as well is a lot of coaches we're looking for a lot of the same positions, NFL and college. So it might be an NFL team or a college team is looking for a running backs coach, and they hire somebody else. I may reach out to that coach and, hey, who are some other guys that you came across that impressed you and things like that. And there were some guys in Monterio's instance, not necessarily this year, but in previous years that had interviewed him that had great things to say about him as well.
Rick Henry.
Hey, Shane, I was just wondering, did you ever have any interactions with Willie Scott when you were here before as an assistant or anything like that?
I did not. I wish I had. Unfortunately, no. I mean, somebody that I knew of and have always had tons of respect for, but not a lot of one-on-one interactions with him when I was here before, unfortunately.
Phil Kornbluth.
Hey, Shane.
Phil.
The one spot that you still have left in your 2021 class, do you sense you're getting close to filling that?
No. I mean, there was actually a report last week I saw from one of you guys that somebody that we've offered a scholarship to that we're full speed ahead on, which I've never had a conversation with, or offered a scholarship to. So that was disappointing to see some of that stuff. But no, somebody that we've got that in our back pocket that we'll certainly utilize that going forward and see the best situation that fits our program. Don't have anything imminent. No one right now that we're talking to, and at this point it may potentially be something after spring practice as well.
Eric Boynton.
Yeah, Shane, you talked about having positive, high energy guys. Is there an extra level of energy maybe in this entire coaching room due to the fact that you have a bunch of guys? For the most part, this is probably the best job, the most high stature job they've had in their coaching career versus other coaches that were maybe just trying to hold on or had been at 5 different SEC schools, that type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it worked out that way in some ways. It wasn't like I went into it and said, let me find 10 guys that this is going to be the best job they've ever had. And I don't know if all of those guys would say that. I hope they do. I think it just kind of worked out that I was looking for 10 great people, coaches, recruiters, and that's certainly the way it worked out. But you got a bunch of hungry guys in this building, players and coaches, and regardless of whether they've been at a high level or not, whether this is their second time around at an SEC school, or I think Greg Atkins, this will be his third SEC school that he's worked at. Torian Gray's been in the NFL. I mean, you got a lot of guys that have been a lot of different places, but I know we got 10 guys in here that really work well together, that are hungry and passionate and ready to compete and go see what we can be about.
Hale McGranahan.
Kind of a broad question, I guess, but what are you guys hoping to accomplish as a staff, and what do you guys want to see the team accomplish over these next 6 weeks before spring ball gets going?
Really, it's still attacking the weight room and doing everything we can to get in there. I mean, with Luke, and continue to get stronger, and he's been phenomenal, and just talking to the guys. I mean, they're all coming in my office raving about how stronger they've gotten. I mean, Kristen and nutrition has done an amazing job with these guys, just as far as like body weights and where we want to get them, getting some guys up, getting some guys down. I mean, Jordan Strawn, for example, I think has put on close to 20 pounds since he got here, and this is a guy that it's good weight. Already led the nation in sacks last year, and then you're able to continue to develop his body with what we're doing from a nutrition standpoint with her and her staff, and then Luke in the weight room, and just continuing to develop these guys on and off the field is our mentality right now before we even get into a ton of scheme and things like that. So we're all weight room pretty much right now. As we get a little bit closer to spring practice, we'll start getting into some, football specific walkthroughs and things like that we're able to do before we start practice. But we got a lot to get done between now and then from just a physical and mental development standpoint.
Jen Del Bianco.
Shane, with Shaq Wilson joining the program as a defensive analyst, what do you remember about him as a player, his intangibles, his knowledge of the game as a linebacker, and what does he bring to that side of the ball on that staff?
All that. I mean, just a guy that always just had a smile on his face and just didn't have a bad day. Was a great worker, really productive player that was football smart, was good on all of our special teams, desire to get better. I like his experience, the fact that he's been in the weight room and he's been an analyst as well. So he's kind of been in both those worlds and has knowledge on both of them. And somebody like him and Byron that were dying to be here. And from the time I got the job, had those guys in mind and was just trying to get all the pieces to fit. But two guys that I've had in mind to try, if I ever got this opportunity, that I wanted to get back here because I know how much Carolina means to them. So to be able to get both those guys back was great. And Shaq's very knowledgeable just in some of our, staff meetings that we've had, just talking football and X's and O's. Some of, he's got a good mind, for the game of football for sure. And then the fact, too, that, where he's from in Florida as well, Jacksonville will always be a big area for us in recruiting and always should be as close as it is to us. And the fact that he knows a lot of people down there as well, is an added bonus.
And Josh Kendall.
Shane, you just mentioned Kristen. Along with Kristen, you've got Jessica Kim Fields, who you talked about in your opening press conference. A lot of women who are in high-profile roles in your organization. As a guy who's been around football his whole life, when did that stop feeling unusual or different for you that you had women, in important staff positions on football teams, although it's still clearly not the norm?
It's a good question. I don't know if I ever really thought about it, from that standpoint, Josh. I mean, Kim was here before when I was here and was fantastic when I was here before. She worked specifically with the assistant coaches then and was brilliant at her role and what she does and still is, has only gotten better since the time, that I left. And probably the one thing when I was here before was schools didn't have necessarily a position that Jessica's in right now, like of on-campus recruiting. At the time it was, the coaching staff, and then Robbie Lyles was here, and Patrick Shine and Scott Morgan, and that was basically our recruiting staff, period. And then those departments have grown over time where, somebody like, Jessica can get in here and be phenomenal at what she does as well. And then we didn't have, at least an in-house nutritionist like we do now with Kristen when I was here before. So I think a lot of it is just the staffs and the way that they've grown. But in my mind, and I've always been this way, male, female, black, white, it don't matter. I mean, the guy, if you can do a great job, then I want you on the staff if you believe in the things that I believe in, and we're all on the same page and all on the same team going in the same direction. The more of those people we can get in there get in the building, the better. But I'm very, very thankful to have those ladies here with me because they're fantastic. They're fantastic at what they do, and definitely need to keep them around for sure.